Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 197 of the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And this is part 2 of the Puppet Master series. Spoiler alert, this, I could probably guess Tim's reaction to this. I don't think the next 3 were as strong entries as the first 3. Is that a safe assumption to say?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption. And we kind of knew that going in, that we're probably not going to get any really genuinely good entries until maybe the more recent ones. And that's even debatable. I don't know. That's just based on little snippets of what I've heard. I think even those are a little bit uneven. But this trilogy is, well, I say trilogy because we're doing them in 3s.
Yeah.
4, 5, and 6 are not a true trilogy. 4 and 5 are actually very closely tied together. I believe they were shot back to back. And if you watch them together, you could just make one long, giant, boring movie.
Or cut out half of each one and just make it one movie. Because, yeah, they were very... These are ones that almost, like, I could see... Like, if we would have seen these years ago, I would have probably blended them into one anyway and wouldn't have remembered. The only reason I'm remembering the little bit of separation from them is because I've just seen them. But I could see over the years, like years down the road, if I try and remember back to which one was in which one, what took place in 4 and what took place in 5. They're very similar. I mean, down to
and then 6 was kind of a little bit of a soft reboot, although it takes place a year before Puppet Master 2, chronologically.
Yeah, chronologically, I have no idea where I am, in all honesty. It's just very... And I think next one is Retro Puppet Master, right? After this, so I think we go back further.
And that's the actual first in the chronology. And I actually did not realize that Curse of the Puppet Master took place before Puppet Master 2 until I read it on the wiki. So I didn't even know from the movie that's when it took place.
Wow.
But we'll get into all that in a little bit. We did have a couple of not an official first shot, Brian, but I think you had a couple things you wanted to mention.
Yeah. I just wanted to I don't remember. I think I might have mentioned it because I feel like we've recorded so many episodes in the past, like, you know, between the minisodes and the dismemberment and this episode and the previous. I don't remember if I mentioned, but definitely, of course, wanted to shout out our good friend, Emily Sweet. Make sure that you guys go watch Hostage House on Netflix now. And if you like it, give it a nice review on IMDb. I still have to do that myself. Of course, Emily is fantastic in that, and we always want to support our good friends on this show, and that is so we're definitely gonna promote this. We plan to have her on actually and do like a mini-sode on this or a major episode of it. We're not sure yet in terms of timing wise, but we definitely want to have her back on so we can discuss this. Because this was I know this was a big release for her this year, and I really enjoyed it. Tim, I think you still need to see it, right?
Yeah, and it's not because of not wanting to see it. I definitely want to see it, but with the move, I have not had time to watch literally anything.
Yeah, you literally just have your TV like plugged in the other day, right? Something like that.
Yeah, and I barely got the films watched for the episode, the Puppet Master movie, so I'm like scrambling to watch anything other than what I need to watch for the episodes. I did take one quick break and I watched, as you guys saw on Instagram, I watched Halloween with the kids because they had never seen the original Halloween and they wanted to watch Halloween 2 because Olivia is terrified of Halloween 2 because it takes place in a hospital and she refuses to watch it. And the kids were just fascinated by this movie that Olivia will not watch. So I told them they were not allowed to watch Halloween 2 until they watched Halloween 1 because you just can't do that, right? So they watched it and they loved it, and we're gonna move on to Halloween 2. Now there's some entries that I'm not gonna let them watch. I will not let them watch the Rob Zombie ones. They're just way too much gratuitous adult stuff in those. But I think I will let them watch 1, 2. I mean, they could watch. I guess they could watch 3 and 4 and 5. I don't know. I can't remember the amount of
there's
adult scenes.
There's a little bit of sexual content and nudity in each of the installments, but I mean you could do you could do some crafty fast forwarding.
I feel like 2018 is pretty safe.
Yeah,
I
mean
recall.
and actually I think the only thing in that is the flashback to when Judith Myers gets killed and she's topless in that, and so, but they've already seen that, so and it's not like it's that gratuitous either. It's like kind of, far shot, and so, you may not even notice it if, at that age they're not.
Yeah, I did some. I made them. They're pretty good. When I say close their eyes, they have to put their hands over their eyes, and I do some quick fast forwarding. So that's how we get through some of those sequences.
Yeah,
they're pretty.
It doesn't pretty really
disciplined.
Doesn't really take away from the enjoyment of the movie for in terms
and I'm
of
not.
that,
and I'm not like. I'm not a huge stickler on like nudity. Like I will not let them watch anything with actual sex acts in it or anything like that. So I would never let them watch anything that actually depicts something adult like that.
Yeah.
But if they see a flash of a boob, I mean, they know what a boob is. Come on, yeah, they're people. They know, they understand.
If there's
what
a flash of a boob, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
there's well, 2 has a little bit of the. Yeah, they have that hot tub sequence, but it's not like much happens in it. Other than I guess
the main thing I'm really staying away from is like actual acts that I will not let them get anywhere near. But it's a bit of a tightrope balancing act.
Is it 4 or 5? One of them has something in it. It might be 4.
I know. I think it's
It's the one where I think it's 4 because it's the daughter of the police chief.
Yes, I remember that.
So
scene.
You might have to scan
exactly
through that a little bit. I mean, I don't think it's like obvious, but there's a couple. I mean, 5 might have a brief thing in the hate, but I don't think it's like actual like full on. Yeah. It's like it might be done. Like I mean, you could easily just scan it ahead and
I'll just fast forward it. Yeah, I'll just fast forward through it.
It's yeah. I mean, they have that service, but I think you have to have the Right, there's a thing you can do where if you play, it's through a computer though. You'd have to play it through the computer where it actually. But I can't imagine what it would do to a true R-rated movie because I know my brother-in-law does that where he has movies, but like it's like the Marvel stuff. It's like it cuts out profanity and stuff, but it's mostly just more PG-13 stuff that he edits down to more of a PG. I can't imagine what it would take like an R movie. Rob Zombie's Halloween is like 35 seconds long, I think, through this service, probably.
Yeah.
But, I'm not sure. But, anyway. But, yeah, Tim's playing the good dad. He gives them the good gore and the horror, but cuts out the gratuitous sex. That's the way to go, right?
And it sounds like, some people might go, oh, my God, I can't believe you let your kids watch The Exorcist or whatever. But I'm very particular in what kind of horror I let them watch. Like, I'm not letting them watch Saw or Hostel or anything that's like super, super grossly violent. I did let them watch Freaky because that was more
that's a
kind of horror
movie,
comedy.
That's such a great movie.
Yeah. There was a couple of scenes in that I had to kind of skip past, but I am very aware of what I'm letting them watch, and I'm always there with them and monitoring it because I it's not something I would just let them watch and not be looking over their shoulder.
But that's the key too. It's like, you don't want to hide them from stuff that they're going to eventually find out about. You don't want to give it to them at too many age, when they can't really understand. But the fact that you're doing it the right way, you're there with them. So should they have any questions, you can explain it to them and not like some friend in a schoolyard explaining it to them.
Exactly.
It's like you explain them like, okay, this is an adult thing, or this is what's happening here. You're doing it the right way. So props to you.
And they're and you have to know your kids too. My kids are like, if I say, hey, this is an adult scene, you're not allowed to see it, go in the other room while I fast forward it. They don't ask questions. They don't fight it. They don't argue. They do what they do what I say and they get past it because they know the alternative is they don't get to watch it at all.
Right.
That's the alternative.
Well, yeah, I have to say, I can vouch, too, that what great parents Tim and Olivia are anyway. But the fact that I've seen, we've spent numerous times with your kids, and they are just absolutely incredibly intelligent and very well behaved, always, I think. I have to say. They are such good sports with everything. And so before anyone out there might be judging this, trust me, Tim and Olivia are doing it right. They got some great kids there.
Oh, thank you, Brian. Thank you. All right, so we the next little tidbit up before we dive into Puppet Master is some new films with our good friend Alison Gorski.
Yes. If you remember, she was on our 616 Wilford Lane interview. We had discussed her, and she said she had a couple things coming up. One of the things is actually out now, which is called Jungle Run. This one actually looks really fun. It's sibling adventures come under attack from jungle animals while searching for their missing father. As they fight back against a relentless onslaught, they soon start to realize something much more sinister is happening. And the picture is great. It's a boat going through like a jungle environment with this giant snake about to devour it. And it said the tagline is "A search for their father led them to hell." So, and it stars our good friend #Richard Grieco too. So, but yeah, so this is available on Prime Video. You can rent actually, so it's probably on some VOD also. But yeah, so give that one a look. I might rent that over the weekend. Actually, I'm gonna check that out. Looks kind of fun.
That's good.
And she's got another one coming out, which is called Devil's Triangle. That one is still under production. So. It's not out yet. I don't know for sure when it's coming out. But it's basically the description on this one is, and looks like she's a top bill on this. In this one it says when a group of marine biologists crash land in the Bermuda Triangle, they realize they have stumbled into the lost city of Atlantis, but they quickly discover the city isn't friendly and its humanoid inhabitants are planning worldwide domination using the piles of weapons and technology that have fallen through the triangle over the centuries. What a cool plot. I mean, I've always been fascinated by the Bermuda Triangle, and I love the hidden thing of Atlantis. They put them together in this, and what a cool plot. Like all the things that supposedly disappeared, apparently these humanoids basically took and weaponized, which sounds like a really cool plot.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Me, so.
You know, my one of my favorite authors, one of Olivia's favorite authors, is James Rollins, and he writes all these like adventure books that are sort of like that, where there's always like some tie-in to some ancient mystery. It's sort of like a National Treasure type thing.
Oh yeah.
But he has some great novels. They're always like take place in jungles and exotic locales, and there's always action and adventure and secret societies and stuff. I love those. If you ever want just a good entertaining read, go check out some James Rollins books.
Yes.
It's really good.
Yeah, so, yeah, we just wanted to touch base on that. You know, we always like to, as we know, we always like to support our good friends. Whatever they're working on, we will try and always share to help give them some more notice on their projects. But we're really here, though, of course, today to continue our legacy. Well, not the legacy. I guess our journey into the legacy.
Don't say legacy, because that's supposedly the worst Puppet Master movie.
Yeah, no, yeah. What I meant
coming up. That's part 8.
Was there a Hellraiser legacy? There was another legacy one that didn't do well either. But yeah, no, it's like I meant to say the journey into the legacy of the Puppet Master series. Yeah. So, well, yeah, so this one, yeah, like Tim said earlier, this 4 and 5 could be one movie. And 6 kind of is like the soft reboot, but we'll get into all the go through them all. So I guess Tim, if you want to start off with Puppet Master 4.
Oh, Puppet Master 4. This came out the year I graduated high school. Dating myself here. Puppet Master 4, 1993. Good year. Directed by Jeff Burr, starring Gordon Curry as Rick Myers, Chandra West as Susie, Ash Adams as Cameron, Teresa Hill as Lauren, Guy Rolfe as Toulon, Felton Perry as Dr. Carl Baker, Stacey Randall as Dr. Leslie Piper, and Michael Seamus Wiles as Stanley.
Oh, Tim, before you read that, just to let you know, Felton Perry. So that's actually the father of Julie's best friend. So we actually knew that, I knew of him, and he's been in a ton of movies. He's probably most known for his being in RoboCop. It's one of the businessmen that's always in those scenes. But so I was really excited to see him in there, and it was kind of funny. It's a bit of a spoiler alert, I guess, for those. But I'm sitting in there, I called out to Julie. I'm like, oh my god, Rico's dad's in this movie. She's like, what, really? I'm like, yeah. She goes, what's he doing? And I'm like, and then his scene happened. I was like, I think he's dead now. So
awesome.
He's got a brief sequence in this movie, he is a fine actor. So but yeah, so it was kind of funny that he's in it, and he actually does get a little cameo, which Julie got to see back in the recap of 4. 4 in the beginning of 5, so she got to see that. But I have to show her, so I have to watch Puppet Master 4 again, so Julie could see at least the beginning.
Oh God,
she could at least see. But yeah, he was pretty cool.
Yeah,
So sorry. Now you can continue. I just wanted to mention that before we got too far ahead.
No, that's great. That's great. A young scientist and his friends, upon being attacked by demons, are protected by a gang of animated puppets. So this is where the puppets turn good, as we were forewarned. And here's the thing: this movie is a big departure from the tone of the first trilogy.
Yeah.
Whereas the first trilogy was really based in horror. I thought Puppet Master 2 is probably the most horror-y of all of them.
Right.
And this one kind of went in this other direction where it really genuinely felt to me like a Saturday morning cartoon. It felt like a live-action version of what the Puppet Master animated series would be on a Saturday morning, because it has this kind of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers type costumes with the demon.
Yeah, didn't it remind you of like? For some reason, I felt like it's the beginning of like it reminded me of the Mummy ride at Universal. Like, when you go in, remember, and you see Imhotep and he's like moving around. He's like, roar! That's what it reminded me of. Because it was like this animatronic demon that they have there. But it's like it's a single shot on him, and he's just moving around. So obvious that it was an animatronic or whatever he was doing, and that they were really limited to his movements of what he could do. Because he's just
like his mouth doesn't even move.
Yeah, it just looked like you were on a ride and you're going slowly past it so you could see his scene act up before you get into the next sequence. And being theme park fans, Tim, I'm sure, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like,
yes.
It was very like staged, and it just like, I don't know. And one more thing that I want to know before we get really deep into this too is how like they make this one when the puppets are good. But here's the thing, even through the first 3 movies, I never looked at the puppets as totally bad. They always had this kind of like this moral consciousness to it, to even turn on Toulon, as we saw in the second one when they realized he had nefarious intentions.
Well,
so
yeah, what the theme you see running throughout these, at least so far, is the puppets are going to follow the whims of their master until he gives them a reason not to.
Right. And so it's like, are the puppets ever actually, so far, are they ever actually the villains in this? Think of even in 2, in the beginning, they go after those obnoxious, like, farmers, like, that really kind of deserve.
I think it's kind of complicated, but I would say the people they kill, from you and I's perspective, don't deserve to die. They didn't do anything to deserve to die. But from a movie-going perspective, they're killing off the people that you're supposed to hate.
Right. Granted, maybe, obviously in the first one, some of the psychics, and the second one, some of the characters there. But at the same time, it's like, I don't think they're doing it. They're under the wrong, they're under the wrong pretenses of why they're doing it. So it's like, it's a very like fine line you want to walk on, if you want to really call them villains. And the thing is like, I think because the puppets are so cool, like, okay, here's the thing, like, when you first see Nightmare on Elm Street, right, the series, you're afraid of Freddy. You're supposed to be afraid of him. He's kind of dark and scary. But as they develop the characters, people wanted to see as much of him as possible, and they're rooting for him. They go in to see how he's going to kill people. Same with Jason. Same, with Michael Myers to some extent. You end up with this anti-hero that where you're kind of like, maybe not in every case rooting for the villain, but the villain is what fascinates you in these movies. In this, I think the puppets from the get-go were just so cool and unique that you automatically kind of like them. So even when they're doing bad things, you kind of gave them the benefit of the doubt, because they're puppets. They're not like they really don't have consciousness in there, but yet you find out they kind of do, and they always lean towards the correct moral side of it, the correct moral side. And so,
I think too that early on it's established that they're anti-Nazi,
right? Which is of course, that's right,
yeah.
or that's a win in my book. But it's like, so I mean,
so I think that kind of established early on that they're generally on the side of good, even when they're maybe doing not so good things. So it's a very interesting moral structure for these movies. It's a lot deeper than what it seems on the surface, because they could have easily just made the puppets like Chucky. They are always bad. They're always evil. And instead there's like kind of this really gray area where they reside. And I kind of like that because it's a recurring theme so far in the movies that you don't quite know whether they're going to, you don't quite know where they stand. It depends on who their master is and what he does to piss them off towards the end.
But yeah, so I mean, I guess if you're gonna look at that, if you look at in terms of the movies, like in this, they are true, unequivocal heroes, the puppets. Because they come in, they're already like kind of these beloved, almost like pets to the main character, And the villain is established right away in the movie. You know in this one, okay, here's what's gonna happen. This guy's an a-hole. He's the villain. Who's gonna stop him? Okay, it's gonna be the puppets, and that's the theme of 4 and 5 basically. And you have a young, like this young scientist who's he's a pretty likable character. He's a little of a doofus in some ways, but he plays cool laser tag games, with his robots and stuff. So he's like, back when this came out, I mean, maybe it's like definitely more 80s than early 90s, I think.
I remember early 90s because that was my senior year of high school, as I've already dated myself again. But yeah, I remember that early 90s is that's when you first started really getting into the internet and things were starting to take off in that direction. So I still remember quite a few, X-Files being a perfect example. A few episodes of the X-Files went into like evil computers and stuff. And while that was a hallmark of the 80s, I still saw that bleeding into the early 90s. So the fact that he was doing lasers and trying to talk about AI and stuff, that was kind of a cheesy early 90s thing.
Yeah, that's true.
I definitely remember that.
Yeah, I mean, but overall, it's like, that's kind of a character, it's a character that, like, you could tell that's the one. It was no bones about it. That's who they wanted you to relate to. They wanted the audience to relate to this guy. And probably back then, if I would have seen it when I did, back then, if I did, I don't know, maybe I might have, because some of it, in all honesty, looked familiar when I watched it this time. But so this may have been one I seen years ago. But so yeah, so. That's the guy you want. His character is the one they want you to focus on. And now he's got the arsenal of the puppets, which by this point you've pretty much probably, if you're like us, like you've grown to love the puppets. You have your favorites. You have the you're getting to see them. You see them in action. You know their MOs really well. So it's kind of fun. There is something cool about the premise to this that. Okay, guys, get ready, because now the puppets are at a war against something, and you got the puppet master is gonna kind of guide them in against this evil entity. Problem is, I think the evil entity was kind of stupid in this. I didn't like the whole way they did this. Like,
now I will say I liked the minion, like the puppet-sized demon minion.
Well, right, yeah, because you needed something like that. Like, I just wish it was done by like a normal person, like maybe a guy that had a normal, like that was like just a normal guy that kind of like resurrected evil things. I didn't need that.
That would have been cool.
Animatronic demon guy. It just didn't.
Yeah, that was so goofy.
Yeah,
it was so Saturday morning cartoon. It was so Power Rangers.
You nailed it with Power Rangers.
It's so Power. I'm not degrading Power Rangers because I know there's a lot of Power Rangers fans, and I know that kind of goofiness is part of the charm. But in this, after coming off the heels of the first trilogy, which was pretty pretty dark overall, and then to have this like stupid doofy man, I don't know if it's an animatronic or a guy in a costume.
Yeah, either way, it was very animatronic-esque in terms of the movement.
Really bad. Yeah, I mean the only good thing I will say is there was as the series has progressed, you get more and more stop motion of the puppets, which I really enjoy. I like when they show the puppets.
Yeah, I love the puppets
actually moving.
Right. Yeah. No,
that part was cool.
Yeah. No, the puppets are great. And you said something actually in the beginning that really makes sense. And this goes with a lot of these series that we watch. So you said like the tone is drastically different, and that always to me is a big problem when you have a series. And it's fine to change bits and pieces of the way you want to go, but when you drastically change a tone so much from the one to the next, it's too stark of a change. And I think maybe we don't notice it as much. Again, are we noticing it because we're watching them all back to back to back to back, or is it? I mean, I still think I would have been like, if I was like let's say I was like hardcore Puppet Master fan from day one, and I saw them all in the order they were released as they came out. Would I have felt the same way? I don't know, but definitely, if you look at the way the first three developed and then this one, it's just such a drastically different tone that it really stands out, and it actually kind of becomes a problem. Now, I didn't hate 4. 4 I did not hate. I liked it as a movie. I had a fun watch with it, even with its big problems I had with that demon guy. But I think the problem, and it's sad to say, but I think it was what made this overall as like a kind of a bad spot in the franchise, was that 5 was almost a clone of it, just worse.
Yeah. And I think we have to just talk about 5 as well.
Yeah, I think
it's almost impossible to talk about them separately.
It is because they're literally
4 is setting up.
Yeah,
they're literally like a continuation of each other.
Yeah, it's literally the same. It's essentially like almost the same movie. And that's a problem when you don't have such a strong entry, but then you're making the continuation of that not so strong entry, but making it worse. You just drag down now the first entry. Like I think if 4 just was it what it was, and then they moved on from it, 4 may have even actually been a little better. But I think
you know what it reminds me of is the those. Remember when the sitcom or like Family Ties or something would have part 1, and like at the end it would say to be continued.
Yeah,
and you would have like a 2-parter, and this one's the same way. This is a 2-part movie basically, 4 and 5.
Yep.
They were filmed back to back, and I think what happened is why you maybe like 4 more, and why I like 4 more. Is because it sets up the story. So as goofy as the story is, at least it's setting it up. It's setting up, okay, there's these demons, they're warring against the puppets. We understand that this kid is probably the next version of the Puppet Master. He's the next futuristic Toulon, if you will. He's being passed the reins.
He's actually the number 2 Toulon because
yeah. And then so you kind of get this setup, whereas 5 is basically just resolving, and it's not even resolving because 4 had a pretty definitive resolution,
right?
But 5 just basically starts it over again. I mean, did you get that from that? I was really puzzled when I watched it, because it's like 4, you think, okay, everything's done, demons are defeated. The torch has been passed, everything's good to go. And then 5, he starts over in the police station trying to answer questions about all this stuff. And basically the same movie happens over again.
Especially the first 10 minutes is like a recap of what you just saw.
Yeah. It's like the demon comes back and now he's battling them again. So basically we have to relive the entire second half of part 4 as an extended part 5.
Yeah, and then they bring back
really
the
strange.
Capitron again, which was okay.
It even ends the same way. It literally ends the same way.
The same way. I just don't understand what I would have liked to see if this was going to actually film back to back. I would have liked to see a different. I would have liked to have it. What was his name already? Rick Myers. Would have liked to have him have a challenge now with these puppets. Like maybe they got possessed and went after him, went a little rogue more against him, where he have to like convince them, battle back, anything. But it was literally a clone of the first. I just don't get it. It didn't make any sense why they went. Why it was just it was exactly the same plot.
I almost have to believe, and I don't know this. I'd have to watch. I've got that great set, so at some point I'll watch the commentaries and the behind the scenes. But I have to believe that these movies were somehow possibly filmed as one movie at some point, and then they decided to split it into two. I don't know, because I do know the Puppet Master series is notorious for reusing footage.
Right.
It does this a lot, especially in the sequels. They'll start rehashing footage from earlier movies and trying to pass it off as new, or they're just doing endless flashbacks. So I don't know what the case is with these two movies, and I haven't, I like doing these shows, just kind of my first impressions without, I don't want to color my impressions too much by knowing too much about the history of the filmmaking and the trivia and all that kind of stuff. I kind of want to just give my impressions, and then after the show's out, then I can go back and kind of figure out all this stuff. But yeah, I have to believe there's something there, because it's too weird that these movies were filmed so close together. It's like they already had planned, okay, we're making Puppet Master 4 and 5, we're just going to film everything, and we're going to just, somehow cobble two movies out of this one story.
Yeah.
Let me give the stats on Puppet Master 5, since we're talking about it quite a bit.
Yeah.
This one came out a year later in 1994, again directed by Jeff Burr, again starring Gordon Curry as Rick Myers, Chandra West as Susie, Ian Ogilvy as Jennings, Teresa Hill as Lauren, Guy Rolfe as Toulon, Nicholas Guest as Hindi, Willard E. Pugh as Jason, Diane McBain as the attorney, and Dwayne Whitaker as Scott. And the tagline on this one, or the synopsis on this one, is: the puppets battle their most powerful enemy yet as they protect their new master from the demon god that created the secret of life. So, I mean, at least I will give them this. They did keep the continuity of the elixir that has to be injected into them to give them life.
Right.
Which
right.
I don't still at this point in the series, I don't quite understand the logistics of that, because if they have to have this elixir, like, how often do they need it? Because at one point, I mean, they go like 50 years between, I don't like, what's the hibernation?
It's the funniest thing you said. It's so funny you said that, because I think they actually, in all of the travesty that is Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys, I actually think there's a line in there where they say something like, "Oh, it's time for their feeding" or something, and like and there might be that one where there's a slight explanation on when they have to give it the injection.
I did think it was funny when, and I think it was in part 4, when he's injecting these puppets with the elixir. I'm like, how does he know how much to give them? Like, he's got this limited supply of this stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Just, like,
and it's like, it's not like he created it. Yeah, so it's like, how does he know, Yeah. It's kind of like that. Maybe he's going to have to steal it, like, from the Libyans again, like Doc Brown. But, yeah, no, it's kind of funny, too. And he doesn't even give them a lollipop after they get these shots. What kind of doctor is he?
No, he's terrible.
But, yeah, I mean, it seems weird because we kind of blended these together, but you have to. If you see them, you'll understand why we did it, I think. Because there's really no other way. It's hard to talk about 4 without talking about 5 and vice versa, because you might be onto something, and whether or not, like, if we have ever get any factual proof of this, I think that 4 and 5, now maybe 4 and 5 was one story and they broke it up into 2 movies intentionally, like that was always the plan, but I think probably the story may have been one story. It's obvious that, like, that was a story, and maybe they realized, they're like, well, you know what, this is a little too long for a Puppet Master movie, let's break it up into one. Because here's the thing, what happens if 4 was so bad that they're like, that's it, we're cutting the series off, we're done? You still got a story. But
right, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They still have a resolution.
Yeah, so who knows? I mean, we stopped doing all the trivia for these things because it'll make the episodes too long to just give you trivia.
I will say
that you
this.
Find.
I will say this. I liked I like what you said earlier when you said you could take the better parts of 4 and blend them with 5 and make a better movie, because I actually like the second half of 5 a little bit more than the second half of 4. I kind of like the end battle more.
Yeah,
so
overall that battle was better, yeah.
So I could see you taking, like, the first half of Puppet Master 4 where you have all the setup and everything, and then take the last half of Puppet Master 5 and because I thought the first half of Puppet Master 5 was really boring.
Yeah.
He's in the police station. He's getting interrogated. You have a long sequence where Blade escapes from the police station, but there's not a whole lot happening. So I could just see I'd love to see a fan cut of Puppet Master 4's first half and Puppet Master 5's second half to make.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was one and some bootleg somewhere. Now, I know this is funny because I literally just watched these a few days ago, but like I said, I knew this was going to happen. So which is the one? Is it the end of 4 or the end of 5 where Six Shooter kind of starts? He goes and he does a couple of shots and it starts shooting away pieces of that demon. Was that 4 or 5? It's like I can't remember. But that was one of my favorite sequences. I want to say it was 5, but it's funny because I want to say it was
similar. 5 too because I remember thinking I loved the puppet battles more in part 5.
Yeah.
And what's funny is I love seeing like Blade fighting the demon thing, the little demon, miniature demon. I don't know what you call him, but
they actually I think they call them totems in Wikipedia.
Yeah. So when he's fighting the totem, and it's so funny because like on screen it's almost like what like a child does with action figures when they're like supposed to be doing hand-to-hand combat. They're literally like just kind of like touching each other.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, but it's got this score behind it, and it's got, and it just looks so hilarious. I actually kind of like it. I thought it was kind of charming that, they don't, it's not like you're seeing these great effects. You're literally seeing two people like basically like, I don't know, like rubbing elbows with these two puppets to simulate them fighting. It's
not like great, like, it's not like Roddy Piper, Keith David battle in the alley kind of fight there.
These are not choreographed fight sequences by
You're getting literally, like Tim said, that's a perfect analogy. The action figure, like that little button on the back where the arms just flail.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. But
it's hilarious.
But so no, I was gonna say one cool sequence. So I have to say one of my favorite sequences between the two was when he got all the puppets together and he was practicing his little laser tag game with the puppets. I thought that was really cool when he like got them to play the game with him. That was really fun.
Yeah, it's just, to me, this 4 and 5 need to be set on a shelf away from the rest of the series as like their own little alternate universe thing. Like I'm telling you, just like I said, it feels like Puppet Master the animated series, or if they did like a limited edition comic book, this would be what you would get. It's not, it feels like it stands separate from the rest of the franchise because it doesn't feel horror. It feels like it's not,
it's like amazing stories, like that.
Yeah, there are a few like creepy sequences or horrific sequences, but the overall tone of the two movies is more like almost like a family. I don't know, a family adventure.
You know what it reminds me a little bit of? Remember that movie, Toy Soldiers? Not Toy Soldiers. Is it No, the one with
Small Soldiers.
Small Soldiers, yes. Doesn't it? It reminds me of that a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a dark,
which I love, by the way. I love that movie, but
they used to make like the kids movies, but they had a little hint of darkness to them. That's kind of what this feels like.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I remember I saw Small Soldiers in the theater. I love that movie. But yeah, that was kind of like, that's what it kind of reminded me of,
Yeah. But let's turn our attention to Curse of the Puppet Master, because I really want to talk about this one.
Yeah, and this one, I went into this dreading this because I looked it up to see, I wanted to make sure, I think I was like checking the time of it. I just wanted to look to see if I had time at the moment to fit it in, and it was like it wasn't some random. I mean, almost every one of them is like just under an hour and a half. So I wanted to just make sure that was the case here, and it was. I think it was like an hour and 18 minutes. It was really short.
Most of these are 80 minutes.
Yeah. So I looked at this and I heard, and it was like 1 star. They're like, what is this joke? What is it? So I went into this. I'm like, oh my God. After 5, I'm like, this is worse supposedly. But I have to say overall, I definitely put 6 ahead of 5. I'm not sure where it goes between 4 yet. I think I have to see that overall, that a decision to have to made, but right now I'm leaning towards moving 6 in front of 4 even. But I actually enjoyed 6. I don't know what
I
it
did
was.
too. And here's the weird thing. Well, let me go through the stats.
I mean, I
first,
think
so
I
let's
know
get that out of the
why.
way.
I think I know why, and we'll get to it after, I'm sure. So yeah, go through the
Yeah.
stats first. We'll get.
We'll
to
go through the stats just to get the housekeeping out of the way. So, Curse of the Puppet Master. This was the first movie that dropped the numbers, I believe.
Yeah.
Or I think it dropped the numbers for the rest of the series. 1998. So you had quite a bit of gap here, 4-year gap. This was directed by David Decato, starring George Peck as Dr. McGrew, Puppet Master. I told Brian he looked like Maury Povich. Emily Harrison as Jane McGrew, Josh Green as Robert Tank Winsley, Michael Guerin as Joey Karp, Michael Sullenberger as station owner, Mark Newberger as Art Cooney, Scott Boyer
I crack
as
up when I
Larry.
see that Art Cooney because all I could think of is Art Carney.
Oh yeah,
So close.
Scott Boyer as Larry, Jason Dean Boer as Pogo, and Robert Donovan as Sheriff Garvey. And the synopsis here is: a scientist attempts to master the art of transferring people's souls into puppets. Now, here's the reason I dreaded this one, Brian. This is the one film out of my original Puppet Master DVD set that I remembered watching, and I knew it was 6 because I remembered. Oh, that's the one where the puppets are good. Now, granted, now that I've seen 4 and 5, I see that there's multiple entries where the puppets are quote unquote good. But I remember hating this movie when I watched it. I remember despising it. When I look at that box set, I think of Puppet Master 6 and how much I hated this movie. So I was dreading this going in.
Now, let me ask you a question,
you,
though. Was that original box set? See, this version that we have now supposedly is the uncut version that they reassembled. So I don't know if you noticed, but there's scenes where the quality is really bad, and then it jumps to like really good quality, and they basically literally restored it from every source they had to make this the definitive cut, I read. So it's like they had literally took it from high-def VHS tapes in certain sequences to make sure that this was the fully intended uncut version.
I'm sure. I'm sure the one I have, it's so old, I'm sure it is not the intended version. But I will say, I really enjoyed this one.
Me too.
Like,
I was stunned.
I was completely surprised. And maybe, again, like we say, when we watch these franchises back to back to back, you get different feelings based on where you're at in the series. And for me, this felt like a return to a real Puppet Master movie.
Yes.
You got rid of all the hokey demon stuff. You got rid of all the stupid, like, animatronic stuff. You went back to a very basic Puppet Master story, plot line, and you're going to call me crazy. This movie reminded me of Leprechaun because you had
it had a bullied guy, like that.
Yeah, you had the bull. Tank it plays the same kind of character as
you are so dead on with that. Now that I think about it, because it was like that Jennifer Aniston like character, like the attractive girl that was like felt pity and that was on the character and really and it's like that is like a great analogy. I don't know if anyone's ever said it before, but if not, they should take your lead because now that you said that, like it's dead on. You're right. It's exactly the same feel of the first Leprechaun.
And I love the first Leprechaun movie. That's one of my favorites. So this like kind of had set up that same tone for me.
I think we ranked it as the best one, didn't we?
Yeah, I think I did. And so you had kind of set the right tone. You got back away from the hokiness. You got back to a true traditional Puppet Master story. Now, again, when I watched this, I did not realize it took place before Puppet Master 2.
Yeah, I didn't. I did not either until actually you said that. Now I assumed
I don't know that would have
after 3 is where I thought. Oh no, wait, 3 is the one that went back. So I assumed it took place after 2.
I assumed it took place after 5. I just thought they all got rounded up again or something. I had no idea. I had no clue in this series.
The only reason I didn't think that was because they said something about where he got the puppets from. I think there was a line where he said he found them, and the fact that they were
I missed that.
Like he kind of had them imprisoned and something. But and another reason, when you say the classic formula, what I liked is it was this guy had the same kind of. He was like a Toulon light in the sense that he had a puppet show going on, like and that was the thing. Like, remember, like Toulon originally just literally had his puppet show. He used the magic that he had to just create these elaborate, cool puppet shows. And so, where he, and that's what this guy was doing, where he had the little, like, that cool opening to his stage that he went in, and and it was just like that. It just went back to the classic formula, but still had enough of a different twist to it. That
now I will say again, spoilers for all these, of course, but this one kind of mirrors Puppet Master 2 in a lot of ways, because they're serving their master, but towards the end they turn on him,
right?
Because again, it follows that same kind of traditional Puppet Master theme of they serve their master until he gives them a reason not to, and this one very much follows that formula. And I don't know, I kind of liked the. It seems funny because we always criticize movies that have these characters that are kind of over the top or formulaic or two-dimensional or whatever. And this movie has that, but for some reason I found it charming in this movie instead of annoying.
Now, I'm wondering if we would have how we would have felt about this one if 4 and 5 weren't like in
That's
play.
what I'm wondering. Like if this was number 4,
right?
How would I have felt about it? I would have
would
clearly
we have said, "Oh, it's
not
the same thing again"? Like maybe I don't know. Maybe that was their plan all along, to give a break and then go back to it, or they realized, okay, 4 and 5 is just not working. We need to get back to the original formula. Whatever they decided, this one I like I said, after all the reviews I saw, I was going in there saying, "Oh God, I got to sit through one that's so bad that literally that according to this, people are ranking this worse than 5." And right then, like 5 to me was like the dud of the series at this point. So I'm like, oh boy. But I found maybe that helped, and I went in. I actually really enjoyed this one. I found myself like chuckling. I love the gore. I thought Blade got to really shine in a couple of scenes.
Oh, Blade was fantastic in this one.
You know, like there's always the with characters in franchises where the character's in it a lot. There's always that moment where the character becomes bigger than the films itself. To me, this may be where Blade stands out. Like I always liked him because of his. I always liked his, just knowing him, his character throughout. But now, like in terms of like watching them all in a row, I think this is the movie where he becomes like this extra level, where you're like, all right, this puppet is badass. I like, because you got to see like Tunneler. You saw Tunneler do a bunch of really crazy stuff, and he's usually actually he was the one that did a lot of the big killings, because how many times did Tunneler like go through somebody, right? But like, Blade, or a lot of times Blade did some stuff, but he got knocked over to the side, or he was, or
it's like one quick slash or something. I mean, this one he goes to town.
Yeah, I mean he goes through like that one guy's face like over and over again, and I just think this one was really just I don't know, something about it. Like I enjoyed it. I liked the And it didn't really, it ended on a kind of a downer note if you think about it. I mean, granted the puppets, realized that they were what they were being used for, so they went back. But they really, most people that they killed in this were deserving, like that bully guy, like that you wanted him to get his.
Well, I like the really creepy. Again, this one, I think another reason I like this one so much is it's very close in tone to Puppet Master 2,
like that guy's nightmares where he would like wake up thinking he was like half puppet and stuff like that. That was creepy.
Well, the final puppet, because there's at the end there's like this puppet human hybrid, but it's puppet size. Yeah. So in the Puppet Master 2, it was like life-sized, human-sized puppets. This is like the reverse of that, where you have a human puppet hybrid that is puppet sized. It was very creepy, right? Very disturbing.
You know what? I think they really captured in this one all the stuff I loved about all the previous entries, and they kind of captured it into one film. Although, I mean, was it perfect? No. I mean, it's still like I think if I had to rank it now, it would. The more we discuss it, I think I am going to put it ahead of 4, just for some of the things we just said. So I think right now it's like definitely in the top 4. I mean, I
put it ahead of 4. And what I'm doing is I'm going to give my definitive ranking at the end of the entire series. But what I've been doing is I'm ranking them in batches. So I rank the first 3 as a set, and I'm ranking 4, 5, and 6 as a set.
Yeah, I'm doing
And
that
then
similar. I'm kind of doing like a running
Yeah.
ranking kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm looking at, and I'm like today, I looked at, I put 6 ahead of 4, which I put ahead of 5. And then I looked and said, okay, now within this set, are any of them better than the first 3?
Right.
So I'm kind of going back, like you said, a running ranking. So
you have to.
With
this many, you have to. There's
you
too
have
many.
to, because otherwise I don't know how I'd remember.
Right. Yeah, I feel like you'll have to rewatch
these...
them all again. one big block. Yeah. Yeah, but I just don't see why the hate for this one. I don't get it. Like, where the true hatred that I saw for some of these things on this one, saying it's the worst one yet. I'm like, did they not see Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys? And 2, did they not see 4 and 5? Because, I mean, if you took 4, 5, and 6 alone, 6 is the best.
Yeah, I tend to, I'm not going to say I cheat. I like to look at rankings. It does not influence me in any way. I will always judge these fairly, and I will always judge them on my own terms. But I like to look at a number of rankings, not in real depth. I just like to skim them from various different sites just to get an idea of how wildly off they are from one another. Because some franchises, it's very clear who the favorites are and who the worst films are. I will say, from the rankings I've seen with Puppet Master, they can be a little all over the map, which is not surprising given the number of movies in this franchise. But I have seen Curse rated really low, and I've also seen it rated really high. So it's hard, and I've seen it rated in the middle. So I think all bets are off with rankings for this one. It just depends on which sites you go to. And then, of course, at the end of this, you're going to have another one to look at because you're going to have the official Civil Gore ranking. Yeah. So, this is a series that's going to be all over the place, and I don't expect at all for our listeners to necessarily agree with our ranking. Although I will say the one advantage we have going into this, Brian, is unlike the Evil Dead series, I'm guessing most of our listeners have not watched every Puppet Master movie.
Right.
So they can't really argue with our rankings.
Yeah. And I will say, though, as I've been watching this series, that $60 I spent on the Full Moon set to get this free set was even worth more than I could have possibly imagined. I love owning this box set. Because I have a feeling over the year, now once I go through it all, I know I'm probably going to go back to watch all the little special features. But this is a great thing. Like, that value still just like pays in over and over, because just, what a great value from Full Moon. And like, this is a series where you're getting, where there's so much like fun to be discovered in it. And like, think about that I love seeing that set up on the monolith too. It's just a great set to have. It's so far it's like, I mean, overall, even with the duds of 4 and 5, I have really been enjoying this journey through this franchise.
Yeah, and if you think about it, even with 4 and 5, which we consider the duds so far, there's still things I liked about them.
Oh, yeah. Like, it wasn't
scenes I liked.
They were not unwatchable. Like, there was a couple of the Hellraisers that, to me, I will never watch again. I doubt I would ever watch again unless I had to for a specific reason. Like, I don't know what that reason would be. Gun to my head, maybe? I don't know. But, yeah. This so far, though, it's like, even though that one strayed a little bit from it, it had enough of what I love about the series, which, surprise, surprise, there's the puppets doing their thing. It had enough to keep it, like, still in there. It's just, I'm just, in terms of, like, it's hard when you see how great the first 3 are, and now how much I love 6, that 4 and 5 just are going to stand out as not being as good. Doesn't mean they were horrible. I just think like you said, it should have been one movie. It should have been one movie, because they could have captured all the same excitement, like took the best of each one and put it into one just 2-hour movie, and then it would have been fine. But I don't think, I think they try and keep to a certain time point for a reason with these movies.
Yeah,
that's fine,
they're all like very consistent in their time. I will give them that. Like, they keep these at like a swift 80 minutes, and sometimes they don't feel like 80 minutes. Sometimes they feel like 3 hours, but at least they're pretty consistent. That's one thing I like about Full Moon. Some people might say, "Oh, those are horrible. They're like horrible B movies," but you know what you're going to get. Like if you go in expecting, what you're going to get. They're not straying from the formula. You know what kind of effects you're going to get. You know what kind of acting you're going to get. You know what kind of dialogue you're going to get.
They're the opposite of a box of chocolates. You either embrace that for what it is, or you tune out. And they have a lot of fans because a lot of people like that expectation of they kind of know what they're going to get. And it's sort of like trauma films. You kind of know what you're going to get with trauma films. Full Moon's the same way. And how you always said that's what you think, what you like about in the podcast that you listen to, and why you always wanted Civil Gore to be like consistent, because I think you always said, you and Kevin always said the same way. You like knowing that. I mean, granted, yes, we changed from Friday to Monday, but I mean, we still, what I'm saying is we're consistent. We always give you the same type of thing each week. You know what you're getting from our podcast. We don't try and be anything else. And to me, that, especially, I swear to God, with the world going the way it is, this kind of consistency and comfort are very important more than ever these days.
Yes.
And so, to me, I think you hit the nail on the head. You know what? If you like Full Moon, there's a reason you like it. I happen to like their stuff. I find them enjoyable. I mean, are you talking Citizen Kane here? No, but you're not. They're not trying to be. They never were trying to be, and they're not going to say they're trying to be. They give you what they want, and you could tell they probably had a ton of fun creating all their content. And it's a great company. They're very consistent. And, as a company, as experienced just as a company, like, where I had to order stuff and they fixed my order, they're good. And the movies they churn out are enjoyable. And that's, to me, what the movies should be about,
Yeah, exactly. Now, Brian, before we get into our beer pairing and everything, I did want to talk about, just from a programming note, what films are we doing next week? Because we kind of discovered a source for Demonic Toys, and it kind of falls. At first, we thought we were not going to do Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys. Now we kind of can. So, next up, of course, is Retro Puppet Master.
Yeah,
that is considered part 7.
So I have a file here of our order. So I think what we'll do is next week. So here's the thing. Okay, so there's 8 left. I think we probably should just do 4 and 4. So we'll do, next week we'll do Retro Puppet Master The Legacy, Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys, and Puppet Master Axis of Evil. Then but here's the thing. I think Puppet Axis of Evil, Axis Rising, and Axis Termination should be all together.
Yeah, that was my only problem, is splitting the Axis series, because that is a true trilogy.
That's one together. So what Well, I mean, because I hate to do 3 and then 5 in 1 week.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be tough.
You see, you get a little behind the scenes of our program.
Yeah, because this is, it's a little tricky here, because we definitely can't split it up into 5 SLAYCATIONs. I mean, we can. It's not like it's a rule or anything. But, I mean, here's the thing. Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys is kind of a not in canon thing anyway, so that could be quickly discussed. But still doesn't help, because it's still it's just where it breaks up.
I say we just do 4 and 4. I know we're kind of breaking up the Axis series, but we'll just that's okay.
Yeah, I guess we'll do 4 and 4. So next week should be Retro Puppet Master, Puppet Master The Legacy, Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys, and Axis of Evil. And then following that, we'll have Axis Rising, Axis Termination, The Littlest Reich, starring Barbara Crampton, and Blade, the Iron Cross.
Oh man, that's gonna be a lot of movies to watch.
Yeah, yes. But I mean, you know what though? You know what? It's funny. I'm really excited for the Blade, the Iron Cross, because I bought that.
I have
separately,
not seen that one. Yeah,
because that's not in our set. Our set, I think, stops with Axis Termination, correct?
Yes, it does. And,
because we have that
I have
bonus
not-
disc in there that makes it the 12-disc set. So the
Right.
Little Strike and Iron Cross are separate. I have those on solo discs.
I'm actually looking forward to the whole Axis series because I have not seen any of those. I know for a fact.
Right.
And then the Little Strike I did see, and I was maybe lukewarm on it, but I kind of want to see it again now that I have a better understanding of the whole franchise.
Yeah, I think it's probably those later ones are probably hard to jump into first.
Yeah, and now that I've seen these, I realized I had not seen hardly any of these. Like,
Right, same.
I'm here.
thing
I am.
with me.
This
I thought I
fan
saw
of this
more
series.
than I did.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the series, and I've seen Puppet Master. I don't remember anything about 2, nothing about 3, don't remember anything about 4, don't remember anything about 5. I remember Curse because I know that's the one I watched out of my DVD set.
Yeah.
I know Retro because I watched that for a Halloween challenge.
Yeah, same with
recently.
me. Yeah, that's the one I watched
then-
in our challenge.
Everything after that, except for Littlest Reich, I haven't seen. So it's crazy that I'm a fan of this series. I haven't watched any movies from.
But that shows something on how iconic just the series is on a whole. That you could be just a fan by the look of it, by the characters that.
Yeah,
you
I mean, I had the
even
action
know.
figures of it. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you
Crazy.
one thing: the new series of these figures that are coming out, I am going to collect them all because now that I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm really
No
loving
question.
this series more and more. So, has there ever been
All
a
right,
Puppet
let's-
Master video game? Because if not, there needs to be.
No, that would be so cool. Oh my
Someone
gosh,
needs to
make
do that. Oh my god, someone needs to make that.
That would be freaking awesome. There's a comic book series that I'm going to start tracking those down.
Oh, okay.
There is a pretty decent comic book series. All right, well, let's get to our beer pairing so we can wrap this show up.
Yes. So
What do we
I
have for part 2.
Yeah, this is a hard series to get though to get beer pairings for because there's really few puppet themed beers. So it's like I had to kind of get a little creative. I was looking for some kind of demon themed beer, but I really wasn't finding anything that truly worked with it. But I did happen to find 6-Shooter Pale Ale. And I thought that was clever because, I mean, I know, Blade is probably my overall favorite, but I do happen to really like 6-Shooter as a cool because I think the fact that he's a puppet and he actually shoots.
Well, also the fact that he, when he appeared on the scene in part 3, I think, he's been in all of them since, he became one of the classic ones, automatically.
Right.
He just
and he's
inserted himself in to the
Yeah.
base group.
And think about it, he's one of the few that actually have kind of an audible difference than the other ones because of his laugh. Yeah, so he's got a sound. I don't think do the other ones make actual sounds really?
Very light, very light sounds,
like
but
breathing.
It's
I remember Blade
imperceptible.
breathes a lot. He's but
yeah, Blade breathes a lot, and then Pinhead, I heard him in this in Curse. I heard him at some point he was like.
Oh yeah, he did.
It was like a weird
he
thing.
gurgled or something. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but 6-Shooter is consistently audible, so he does stand out a little bit, and he is unique that he's one of the few that could actually. Well, no, I guess what's the one that shoots the flame?
Torch.
Yeah. He most of the puppets have to get close to you to kill them, and like Tim said, why can't you just run away from them? Well, 6-Shooter can get you anyway, so he's kind of stands out for a couple of reasons. But anyway, so I like him; he's one of my favorites. Anyway, so Dillinger, and it's from Dillinger Brewing Company out of Tucson, Arizona. It's 5.5%, so it's a bright English style pale ale brewed with white wheat, oats, and Calypso L Euconaut hops. Wow, that's 2 of those hops I don't think. Oh no, you could not have heard. It's L. I've never heard of. Never heard of L hops. Anyway, it said notes of stone fruit and a nice hop aroma. So yeah,
seems like a pleasant one.
Yeah, and I think 6-Shooter because he had that cool scene I like, which sadly I just can't confirm if it was 4 or 5. I'm pretty sure it's 5, where he kind of he did a couple of shots and he kind of shot a piece off of the little totem demon. So thought that was pretty cool. So he gets the beer pairing for week 2.
Nice. All right, well, we'll wrap it up there, and we will see you guys back here next week for the aforementioned 4 films of Retro Puppet Master, Puppet Master The Legacy, which is essentially a clip show, Puppet Master versus
Oh, is that
Demonic
what
Toys.
it is? Is that really all that?
It really is. I think there's maybe 7 minutes of new footage, and the rest of it is rehash flashbacks.
So what is it? Is it actually a story to it?
Supposedly, it was a movie to fix continuity errors in the rest of the series, but I that is the one movie I've seen consistently ranked dead last in every ranking I've seen. So it's going to be a rough one. And then Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys, which Brian has already seen and has already confirmed is really bad.
And I can't believe that I said that about a Corey Feldman vehicle. So.
And then finally, Puppet Master Axis of Evil. So we'll finish part 3 of our Summer Slaycation with a look at the start of the Axis trilogy. So
yeah, and just a reminder, so after the Summer Slaycation series, I was toying with the idea, and here's another little behind the scenes. I was toying with the idea of maybe taking, because I think we might have another interview lined up, or 2 actually, in the next couple of weeks. So I'm wondering if we break up after our Slaycation, we take a break to really gear up for our 200th episode to make sure that, because there's going to be a lot of behind the scenes stuff for 200 episode. So I think we may take a break and in between there. Not a break in terms of you may get some content, you may get an interview thrown in there, but we'll do the 200th episode, and then actually some point we might need to fit in that our Halloween Horror Nights preview if they announce enough stuff by then.
The move has really thrown me off because we didn't get settled in as quickly as I thought we would, and then with the internet issues and stuff, we ended up, you guys don't know this, kind of more little behind the scenes treats, but typically we pretty run on a pretty tight schedule where we have to record the next week's episode like Monday or Wednesday. So we'll record either Monday or Wednesday, and then it's released the following Monday. But we kind of got a little bit behind the 8 ball with my moves. And so, like, we're actually recording this Tuesday night. The episode's releasing in the morning.
Yeah.
Which is why you're going to hear minimal editing on this one. But now we're in the position of where it's Wednesday and we have to get the next episode out for
Monday.
The next month. Yeah, the next Monday. So it's like we're yeah, we have another episode due out Monday. So we're kind of like even scrambling even more than we typically are. So we kind of, I guess it was bad timing that my move happened right in the middle of our biggest franchise, which we had the most movies to watch, but we'll figure it all out.
We'll get it to you. Yeah. I mean, that's why this one got pushed back, but we're lucky enough because we also tend to get interviews over the summer more so than we're expecting. So it's like, the funny thing is you guys actually never suffer in content. You get more content.
Right. When we're scrambling, you usually get more. But the reason I said all that was just to say that having that break before our 200th will allow us to basically reset and get back to where we're more on top of things and get back from behind the 8 ball.
And you want to think crazy. So, I mean, with time zone, right after that, if you think about that, like, I'm already starting the preliminary works on our Halloween Horror Challenge, because if you think about it, we usually announce that a couple of weeks before. So we're just over a month away before we may start announcing the criteria for that.
Because it's crazy. This year's gone floating.
Yeah, and then we have to, our scheduling will be off due to because we'll have a couple of shows in there. We'll have a preview episode for our Halloween Horror Nights trip. Then we'll have the wrap up, of course, for our Halloween Horror Nights trip. We have our 200th episode in there. And we have our Halloween Horror Challenge little mini-sode that we usually throw in there to kind of introduce the and remember, I promised it since our 5th annual to be extra diabolical, and I have some ideas. So we have a ton of stuff coming up, like, in a really short time. It seems like it's just, I don't know. It just seems like, where the heck did this summer go? You know, and it's like, with all that's going on in the world too, you figure, it's like, there's plenty of distractions, but it's like, it's crazy what's going on with all the just the content that we're having to view and take care of. But the thing is, we always find a way. That's a good thing. It's like, we're like Jeff Goldblum when he said life finds a way, he really meant Civil Gore finds a way.
That's right. Yeah,
he just didn't know it yet.
Sometimes we're scrambling. It reminds me of the South Park documentary where sometimes they were handing the tape to the network like 30 minutes before airtime, but they were getting it in. That's what we're doing with these episodes. Darn it, I'm getting it in. It might be just a few hours before it goes live.
Well, so I just recently rewatched the whole, the movies that made us. I watched all of them in like a big like binge thing. And like when they said Ghostbusters, how close they came to just finishing that film on time. And just think about Ghostbusters, which is probably one of my favorite films of all time and one of the most beloved films for many people of all time. To think that it barely just got it made. And just like literally they said that they were doing the test audience screenings of it. They literally had the insert effects here like title cards thrown in.
That's
and to
awesome.
see what a perfection that film ended up being. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. And I think some of Brian and I's favorite shows that you guys don't know, the behind the scenes drama that was happening on. Some of our better shows have been when we were like completely tired.
Yeah. Late
in the week. We didn't think we were going to get a show out, and some of our best episodes spawned out of that. So you never can tell.
No.
Sometimes the most prepped we are, the worst our episode is.
Yeah, I think that really is. I think when we're under the gun, because I think, you know what it is? I think when we have too much time, we probably overthink it. When we know we just got to get it out, we just go on autopilot with our abilities without any kind of editing in our heads kind of thing. We're just boom. Okay, whatever it is. Gotta trust. Like they say, trust in the science. Well, we trust in our ability to deliver a semi-decent somewhat beloved podcast.
Yes. Oh man. Okay. Well, we will see you guys back here next week. Really enjoying this series and discussing it, and I hope you guys are too. So take care, and we will see you soon.